Greetings, people of Earth, and welcome back to another informative episode of Smash the Fash, the show that caused someone to ask me, why do you want to make out with fascists? Of course, by Smash the Fash, I don't mean that kind of smashing. This is episode, 5 already or something of this show here? Damn, I've been going at it a long time. Happy 2026. Hey, we made it through 2025, so every year that goes by, just watch marathon episodes of MST3K or something. That helps pass the time through this colossal shit show. It'll be over, because people do die. The human lifespan is finite. Even my lifespan is finite. So, make it. Happy 2026. Yay. 2026 is January. Yahoo. It's very warm outside. Uncharacteristically warm for the middle of winter. It's fucking hot. I wonder what that has to do with anything. I'm just a cog in a machine. 2 episodes ago, there was a comment on my video about the necessity of atheism, how important atheism and secular humanism are in a civilized 21st century democracy, such as ours ostensibly is. And the comment went something to the effect of, well, Nick, you might believe in atheism now, but I had these same thoughts when I was your age about how there's no God in the universe, there's no higher power, and ultimately only we human beings have to answer for ourselves. That can be a scary concept, I guess, to some people, is that we human beings have to answer for our own behavior, and we don't have any supreme moral arbiter to turn to. We have to develop our own system of ethics. That can be kind of daunting to cowards such as Charlie Kirk or Donald Trump, I suppose. But this comment said something to the effect that by the time I was this commenter's age, I would have overcome the silly, dumb, idiotic principles of atheism, and I would have moved on and realized that there is a God, and the universe is governed according to these doctrines that are set out by this higher power, for which there is no objective, quantifiable, substantive evidence. This is quite the comment, because it makes so many bizarre assumptions, like that I would go down the exact same train of thought as this person. I'm pretty sure I will die not believing that there is a God or a higher power in the universe. I'll accept that when I die, my consciousness will just cease operating, and I'll be okay with that. That's the kind of thing I expect a mature adult to be able to deal with, that there is no afterlife, there's no golden cookies waiting for you, you just die, and that's okay. I'm fine with that. I'll have done everything I wanted to do during my generous, 90 or so year lifespan. It'll probably be 100 by the time I get up there. The human lifespan is lengthening. That's one thing I think that due to modern medicine is legitimately good, that the human lifespan has gone from 50 years or so in caveman times to 100 years or so on average now. I think that's legitimately pretty cool. But once I die, once my time's up, I'll be okay, my time's up. I won't believe that there is a God. I've thought a lot recently about how you can kind of conquer fascism, and you can be skeptical of fascism if and when and where it presents itself. I mean, I've seen people really go the extra mile to be resistant to fascist ideology, and that's so admirable. I think we Americans are doing a fantastic job of resisting, honestly. So far, at least, I think we're doing a pretty damn good job of keeping our wits about us. I think that anyone who claims, oh, you would lower yourself to this moral standard, anyone could do that. Like when I made my video about Neil Gaiman, and what he did, and how it's just fucking sick, and how he's just a fucking dumbass. I got a lot of comments that were oh, you're no saint either, Nick. Well, it's yeah, but I've never hired a babysitter and then asked to have sex with her in front of my children. I don't have any children, and I don't have the money to buy a fucking babysitter. I don't need one because I don't have children. But this is the kind of whataboutism. You would do the same as this person. You do the same as so and so if given the opportunity. And this kind of speaks to a lack of understanding about basic human nature. As a secular humanist, I do believe that all people, for the most part, there are some exceptions, all people are born with the capability, the potential to do great things. And the vast majority of people, even if they do some pretty messed up or mediocre, or, half alright thing, they do things with good intentions. They go in with good faith and they try their best to do cool things in the world. I do try and believe that. My faith is tested all the time, in much the same way a Christian's would be. But I do believe that people, intrinsically at least, are capable of some cool shit if you put your mind to it and don't fuck around. When I hear things like, oh, you would be the next Epstein if you were under those exact circumstances that Epstein was under. You would be the next Diddy or the next Trump or the next Charlie Kirk or whoever. If I was under the insanely specific, bizarre circumstances that led to the weird-ass chain of Rube Goldberg-ass events that constitute Jeffrey Epstein's life, but that's not the case because most people don't have a life like that. That's not by any means normal, and it's important to keep that in mind. So when people say, "Oh, you would go to this level," no, actually, I wouldn't. I have standards, and I uphold those standards because I value my principles and I value my ethics, and there's a set moral code I exist by. It's not a Christian moral code. It's just like a basic fucking, don't murder. Don't thief, don't shoplift. I've never shoplifted a thing a day in my life. I had friends who thought that shoplifting was really cool. They'd go into the store, oh man, I'm gonna steal a fucking Snicker bar, and this makes me a badass. I'm fighting back against the system. I don't do that. I don't go into a store and steal something. But these types, they're college educated. They're very employed. They make a great amount of money. And they still feel the need to shoplift shit. And it's like, you don't need to. You're the beneficiaries of late capitalism. Like, you're fine. You're fine. I'm on welfare, but I don't steal from fucking stores, because that's like a shit thing to do. And I recognize that. Now, truth be told, I do fight against the system in my own ways. Like, for instance, these security guards harassed me in front of a grocery store once, and they were like, oh, you're loitering, oh, you look like a meth addict, because I do look like a meth addict. I fully admit that, even though I'm fucking sober all the time. And I just said, I'll hang out wherever the fuck I want, because this is America, I'll hang out wherever the fuck I want. I left, I walked the fuck away. But I don't really respect or value figures like security guards, police officers, I think they're tools. I do respect, cashiers, the people who actually stock the shelves at the grocery store. But I do find it disturbing that these days, like every fucking grocery store, there's a security guard up front. I know people used to hate when there were Walmart greeters at the front of every Walmart, but, at least they didn't, fucking give you the side eye and oh, you're probably up to something. But really, the reason that there has to be so many fucking security guards is because there's dipshits like these people I used to be friends with. I'm not friends with them anymore because they fucking suck. But these fuckers who were college educated, they have big, high-paying ass science jobs, big academic degrees up the wazoo, and they still think it's cool to go in someplace and shoplift. And they think this makes them anarchists or something. Grow the fuck up. You don't need to go to a store and shoplift. There's just food banks. But they don't need food banks, because they can pay for shit. It's just pathetic. So, that's a good example of a level to which I won't stoop. I was inspired to make this video because I watched a video by someone called Art Chad, who's Canadian. By the way, why is every YouTuber these days Canadian? It's so weird being the only American left on YouTube. It's everyone sounds American, and then they'll say a boot or spell Favo right, and I'm like, gosh, does the economic system literally only favor Canadians to have enough free time to make a fucking video and post it on the internet? That's so fucking sad. Everyone on the internet's Canadian these days, at least on YouTube. Everyone's Canadian, and this guy Art Chad, he has this video called AI Psychosis is Coming For You. And it's kind of clickbait. I mean, it's a well-edited, well-made video, and it's trying its best to be, like, informative. And it talks about some of the issues with, like, AI psychosis where people go crazy because they're talking to their fucking chatbot or whatever. And in this video, he mentions how at Charlie Kirk's funeral, there was an AI-generated Charlie Kirk voice that was played. And he said, like, "I'm okay. I'm in heaven now. You don't need to worry about me. Charlie Kirk, I'm okay. It's me, Charlie Kirk." Some people, cried. They're like, "Oh, our favorite fucking racist is safe up in his sky castle." And, wow, this is so deep. I hate to say it, I really do. I do hate to say it. But if you listen to an AI-generated Charlie Kirk voice, and you think that's actually Charlie Kirk talking to you, and you cry about it, and you go to Charlie Kirk's funeral, which, by the way, under my doctrine, secular humanist doctrine, Charlie Kirk would be considered a radical religious extremist on the level of Osama bin Laden. It doesn't matter that he's fucking Christian. He's as radical as Osama bin Laden, so you're basically going to, like, Osama bin Laden's funeral, right? You listen to this AI-generated voice. I do not want to say this. I know this will make some people upset. I am the intellectual and moral superior of everyone at that funeral. And damn, that makes me feel pretty good about myself, doesn't it? I don't like to say that because I know that people aren't meant to say such things at this point. Because we're stuck in this post-ironic tread circus of moral relativity, and wouldn't you be Donald Trump if you were in his position and got a small loan of $1 million from your father? But I really am the moral and intellectual better of everyone who listened to that AI-generated Charlie Kirk voice. And that's just kind of interesting to think about, because I don't even think of myself as that upstanding a person. But man, the lows some people will stoop to, I feel good. It makes me feel good about myself to know that there are idiots like that out there. And to know that I will never be one. Because I don't believe that large language models are real. I think they're going to die off very soon, along with Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump and all the rest of this fascist nonsense. And that's a relief. Part of defeating fascism means keeping in mind that you are morally better than it, keeping in mind that you will never stoop to its level. But how exactly can you remain morally better than the fascists? How, if there were an ostensible fascist takeover of America, say, just a hypothetical here, nothing literal, how exactly would you maintain moral superiority over the fascists? How would you become an Oskar Schindler type figure, well remembered by history, instead of being relegated to the dustbin along with the rest of the scum? Especially if, as with myself, you're a white man and people tend to look at you as the dominant class in your country. How would that work? How would you go about that? So that's what I kind of aim to cover in this video. How can you rise above the morass? If we're going to talk about rising above the morass in systems which are designed to break you, I think the best possible example, a really good starting point, and a great film period, is George Lucas's movie THX 1138, which I've mentioned before sparingly on this channel, but it's a very, very good movie. And maybe my favorite depiction of a dystopia ever, because unlike something like George Orwell's 1984, which is poorly written CIA-funded anti-communist propaganda with a little bit of rape apologia tossed in there just for good measure, because George Orwell was a fucking misogynist and just overall a British-minded scumbag. THX 1138 is a great example of dystopic fiction. It's one of the only dystopic pieces, I think, where the protagonist actually just fucking leaves their dystopic shithole of a society behind. Like, in the Maze Runner, it's a big hot desert out, and in the Hunger Games, the whole world is destroyed or whatever. And in 1984, there's only 3 countries, and they all suck, and, Winston just ends the novel like a little bitch, He just ends the novel like a little mind-broken bitch, because he's like, oh, I love Big Brother. Really, though, loving Big Brother, there's nothing wrong with that. Big Brother's fucking based. Manuel Goldstein can go fuck himself. But that's besides the point. THX 1138 is one of the only films and pieces of dystopic fiction, period, which just says the protagonist can, if he has enough willpower, just leave his shithole behind. He can just go. It doesn't say at all what happens to THX 1138 after he climbs out of his subterranean sewer society that's full of bold clones. It doesn't say what the sun is or where he's going. Unlike Star Wars, and I think it makes sense to compare Star Wars to THX 1138 because they're very different but also very similar in a number of ways, and you can see George Lucas's mind behind it. The scene at the end where THX 1138 faces the single sun is very different from the scene where Luke Skywalker faces the binary sunset, because in one case you get to see what happens to Luke Skywalker after he leaves his little moisture farm, and you don't get to see what happens to THX 1138 once he reaches the surface of the Earth. Presumably the Earth. It's never stated outright, but THX 1138 does presumably take place on Earth in the far distant future. George Lucas was aware of some really interesting things with THX 1138. For instance, the Jesus robot that people speak to. And George Lucas, even though he is a Methodist, and a Buddhist, but a Methodist too, he's able to recognize that religion can be used by big tech, and it can just be used to take advantage of you. Like, that's really fucking obvious. But back in 1970, it was kind of a revolutionary thought, and today even, it seems most people aren't aware of this, that, like, religion can be used to manipulate you if it's not just a very close personal thing, and it's like a big fucking, you know, Peter Popoff fucking megachurch. That's just completely exploitative. So George Lucas creates the Jesus robot. And what this fucking thing is people go and they confess their deepest, darkest fears and sins to the Jesus robot, and he talks in this comforting tone. Oh, you're my son. Oh, I forgive you. Oh, the light of God shine upon you. And what he's really doing is he's collecting information and sending it to the overseers. Now this is a great depiction of how religion can be used against the masses. And it's just like the Charlie Kirk AI-generated voice. It's used to sucker the gullible. George Lucas was coming up with this idea about a manipulative Jesus robot all the way back in 1970. And admittedly, it is one of the creepiest fucking robots in all of sci-fi, even more so than HAL 9000. I feel like HAL 9000, as evil as the fucker is, I feel like he has a bit of a personality, you know, he's got a bit of spunk to him. And I feel like playing chess with HAL could be pretty fun, theoretically. But the Jesus robot is just dead inside. It's just a picture of Jesus on the wall. And it's like the creepiest possible painting of Jesus, too. George Lucas really aced it on that one. It's a great fucking example of how, like, a confession, which is meant to be this really private, intimate sort of thing between two people, you know, it's like a very, very close, private, personal thing, can just be turned into a shit show when you're in a society that is so far removed from the current one that it is virtually unrecognizable. The people in THX 1138 don't talk like people because the individual, the concept of the self, has been so deconstructed and atomized under the system presented by THX 1138, which is presumably an extrapolation of current trends that George Lucas saw. The concept of being itself is so foreign, so alien to THX 1138. It's a wild step beyond something like that presented in Orwell's 1984. It's far beyond that. It's almost at least 90% to becoming the Eloi from H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, or the Morlocks. I mean, they are subterranean, so they're kind of half and half. The point being, THX 1138 presents a society which maybe isn't fascist in nature because there isn't really any specific authoritarian intent behind it. It's the kind of system that's just been allowed to fester and grow for so long that nobody even has any fucking idea what's going on anymore. Nobody can claim to have an individual thought. Every individual being has been subsumed into this hideous mass. One of my favorite scenes, maybe my favorite scene actually, is the one where Donald Pleasance walks from the pristine, tranquil prison room into the vast hallway full of crowds and multitudes of bald clones, and they just mow him down, and he screams at the sheer magnitude of the mass, the societal mass that's pushing down upon him. He just fucking screams. It's fucking awesome. And obviously George Lucas isn't exactly subtle with his filmmaking, but I like that a lot. It's a great metaphor. And unlike Star Wars The Special Editions, where it happens in a galaxy far, far away, and so I can excuse stuff like the CGI monsters added in and all of that, all the little additions George Lucas made to update the movies or whatever. I don't really like the remastered version of THX 1138 because the CGI elements really clash with the stripped down practical 70s effects that George Lucas is going with. And there are scenes that just don't need to happen. Like there's a scene in the original where a rat scurries around Donald Pleasance's foot and he kind of winces at it. It squirms. And then in the remastered version, it's replaced by this grotesque crustacean-looking thing that's obviously CGI, and it's you don't really need to do that, because THX, it's presumably set on Earth, so I don't expect there to be Star Wars creatures here or whatever. But, if that's George Lucas's vision, admittedly, I think George Lucas is a much better filmmaker than people give him credit for, and I don't understand the drive to be he doesn't get to make his movies how he wants. But I would recommend watching the original cut of THX 1138. That's just my personal preference. It wouldn't be George Lucas's preference. I'm actually surprised there is a remastered version of THX 1138, but I do recommend the original cut. Anyway, my point is that at the end of THX 1138, our protagonist, THX 1138, after having made it past the highway barricades, after having made it past the sewers, after having made it past all these obstacles, he climbs up a damn tube, he gets his hands on the fucking ladder, he makes his way out to the surface. There might not even be anything out there. There might not be anyone. It might just be a completely devoid wasteland. All that exists might be the city down beneath. But hey, he's out, he made it, and the people down beneath, they're like, hey, THX, not worth our fucking time. He made it out, so fuck it. We're not going to bother with him. We don't need to hunt him down and kill him. He's up there. It's fine, whatever. The fuck, Because these people aren't concerned with, eliminating enemies of the state or whatever. There isn't really a state in THX 1138. It's just one big, disgusting clump of conformity. It's the kind of society that doesn't even know that it is dystopic. I don't even know if it can be described as that at that level. And that's the beauty of it. THX 1138 is a masterclass in dystopic fiction. And I wish it got a couple more movies from George Lucas like that. As much as I do like Star Wars, as much as I do like Indiana Jones, I do wish there was at least one other George Lucas movie like THX 1138. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, Star Wars is my favorite, but THX 1138 is a very close second. They're obviously very different movies, but like I say, they are similar in certain ways. This is interesting, but THX, who the sound mastering system was named after, George Lucas admits in the commentary on the remastered edition of THX 1138 that THX is sex, and the girl, La, is love. So what George Lucas is effectively trying to say is that under conditions such as these, a healthy, functional, romantic relationship, or any kind of relationship really with just two people, is not viable. It's not possible to have a healthy, functional relationship between two people, because THX, when he leaves, he has to accept that La is dead, and there's no chance of him having any kind of neural input from another person. For all he knows, the big wasteland up above is just a wasteland. There's no people in it. There could be people in it. We never find out. But La is gone. La specifically. Love is gone, right? And what George Lucas is trying to say, I think, here is that when you atomize and deconstruct and destroy the concept of the individual to that extent, to that great an extent, you cannot have an individual thought. You cannot be an individual person. And this will make you kind of scream, like Donald Pleasance does in the massive hallway full of milling droves. A fun fact, those milling droves, all the bold extras in THX 1138 were recruited from the cult Synanon that atomized and deconstructed the individual through silly bullshit games. And I don't know if George Lucas did this intentionally as some kind of commentary, or if it was just the largest group of bold extras that he could pull from. But it's really interesting that while THX 1138 was made, a movie about this society full of bald drones, there was an actual cult full of bald, compliant people whose minds had been systematically destroyed through supposed therapy, but it was really just an excuse for control. Synanon is a whole shit show unto itself, but I find that really interesting and resonant in a certain way. So, as an asexual, under the current system, I don't exactly feel romantically attracted to people or sexually attracted to people in the way that I'm expected to. And it's very clear that I am expected to conform to certain standards of romantic or sexual behavior, at least by certain demographics of people, the hypersexuals, for instance. But I can't have a one-on-one platonic close friendship with someone because no one is capable of trusting me or saying, Nick might have my best interests in mind. As an asexual, I'm always not trusted. Oh, I didn't have sex with you, so I can't trust you. I only trust people I have sex with, etc. The emphasis on specifically a sexual romantic relationship above any other kind of relationship is a byproduct of late capitalism. Obviously, there are people, much like my friends who used to go and shoplift from the store and call themselves anarchists. There are people who call themselves leftists, but they insist that I haven't made it because I haven't had sex and I don't make that much money off my art. They say, you haven't made it, Nick. And it's like, well, I've made over 1,000 videos, close to 1,000 videos. I've written and drawn over 10,000 pages of printed material. I think I've pretty much achieved what I want out of life. I don't need to become a fucking millionaire or an entertainment titan or anything. I don't want to sell my intellectual property to sound like fucking Warner Bros. Or whatever. But, I've made it pretty well for myself as is. I'm proud of the fact that none of my characters are owned by Disney. I don't want a contract from Disney. It's okay I haven't made it. But these self-proclaimed leftists are so worked into the system, they don't even recognize. Some of them call themselves communists, but they insist that I have to have a sexual relationship with someone, which is the kind of thing only a 50s ass trad wife, husbando, come on and make me a sandwich types. That's the kind of thing only those sort really place any kind of value on. But today's leftists, at least some of them, do place as much emphasis on having a romantic relationship. They think this is like the secret to life or something, like you haven't made it until you fucked. Much like in THX 1138, it's worth keeping in mind that even if you do have a romantic relationship, and I've tried to have a platonic relationship with many a person, someone's like, oh, I'm polyamorous, I want to have sex with 50 people, and I'm like, that sounds really stressful. I wouldn't recommend that. I mean, you can go ahead and try, but that just sounds fucking stupid to me. I don't want sex with 50 people. I want to focus in on one person. But even if you do focus in on one person, there's no guarantee that you'll ever be able to know them or trust them because of the deconstruction and atomization of the individual under the current systemic factors. You can't be sure that you'll ever really know someone or trust someone. That's a pretty haunting thought. You'll end up like Michelle Pfeiffer in What Lies Beneath, and Harrison Ford, he's gonna try and submerge you under the bathtub. You never thought that would be the case. I mean, he's fucking Han Solo. But here he is. He's like, oh, this water's a little cold. Time to add in some hot. Psh, Great movie, by the way. I love What Lies Beneath, too. And see, my constant references to pop culture is just like a systemic factor, too. But it's a little less annoying than a perpetual emphasis on sex. I do have to admit that. So the current expectation that everyone my age, in their 20s, Gen Z, right, we think we're political revolutionaries. We think we're very important. But at the same time, we buy into capitalist propaganda hook, line, and fucking sinker. And we're not politically active at all. Compared to the baby boomers, who we love to shit on, but they were out there in the streets dying for Vietnam. There was the Kent State Massacre, Altamont and shit. We don't have anything like that. We don't have any big turmoil. We're a bunch of fucking weaklings. You know, I hate to say that about my own generation, but we are fucking sad. We don't have a spine in our fucking body compared to the baby boomers and what they did to stop the Vietnam War. We don't even know what the Vietnam War is. It's fucking sad and pathetic. We're illiterate. You know, I look at stuff like the Notebook of the Shooter of Charlie Kirk. I've seen that. There's a PDF online. And I just think this mind is just fucking trash. I mean, this is just a mind that just fucking went to rot. Like, yeah, you ended up doing an assassination, and now you're just spend the rest of your life in prison. He didn't even kill himself. This massacre is just, like, sad. Because you look at the Notebook, and it's like his mind is just spiraling into nothing because he has no healthy kind of outlet to spend his mind on. And today's generation is so fucking politically confused, so atomized, and the concept of the individual has been destroyed so much by systemic factors. And there's so much fucking leftist infighting. I mean, like I say, you know, I don't like these fucking self-proclaimed white, college-educated, straight anarchists that just shoplift and shit. They're like just fucking pests. They do nothing for the leftist cause. Infighting is bad, but, like, no one has any sense of individuality. I know a lot of people claim that communism is bad because it destroys one's sense of the self, and you just work for this collective. In the Soviet Union, you just function on behalf of the Soviet Union. But there's a sense of identity under communism. People called themselves by their names. Cubans were like, we're Cubans. We're not Americans. We're not British. We're Cubans. They knew they were Cuban. They knew the history of their fucking island, probably better than modern Americans know the history of America. Cubans and Russians and Vietnamese. Cubans and Vietnamese obviously still to this day recognize themselves as Cubans and Vietnamese. They have a sense of self. If you're a rice farmer in Vietnam, you're a communist, but you have a sense of what you do. You farm rice. You go out in the rice field and you farm rice. And that's a rewarding and fulfilling occupation by every metric. You feed the masses with your little farm, and that's pretty damn awesome, as opposed to the AI data miners that are trained here in America. Wow, you're going to become a computer scientist? Well, I've never heard that before. Yeah, you're totally not a fucking bold drone. You're totally not going to be sent to the Jesus bot to atone for your sins. Yeah, you're a cool individual right there. Keep on it, champ. I think it's an incredible lie propagated by 1950s propaganda that under capitalism you have any more chance of maintaining your sense of individuality than you do under communism. Capitalism destroys the self. If your goal is to make money, if you give in to just making money above all else, or having sex above all else, or whatever kind of materialist conditioning goes on, you will die, or at least your ego will. Your sense of being will go down the shitter. Someone like Donald Trump is kind of dead. You know, he's a concept. He lives as a concept, but in terms of the ability to grow, to change, in a Clockwork Orange case, you know, being a person capable of moral choice, he cannot choose to make a moral choice. When I went to the No Kings protest, there was this one bum that was like, he's already dead, what are you protesting about? He's already dead. And to most people he came off as kind of crazy, but you know, it's true kind of. Like Trump is, you know, there's no more growth he can go through. He can't go from the apprentice to president again. He's just going to stay this way until he's dead. He's going to just die from a liver failure or something. And then he'll be gone. But he's already kind of dead. He's not like a person, really. if you think about it. So, under late capitalism, your sense of self is constantly undermined. You're encouraged to conform. Fascists, too, love conformity, and there is obviously a tremendous overlap between fascists and capitalists. You're encouraged to conform, you're encouraged to talk a certain way, dress a certain way, use so-and-so vernacular. I say this here as a secular humanist. As much as I dislike religion, I would not want to live in a world where everyone is a secular humanist. I wouldn't. It wouldn't be interesting. There would be no stupid Christian ideas to take down. There would be no nice religions like Zoroastrianism or Neo-Hellenism to think about. I'd be fucking bored. So any system of thought which is designed to eliminate individual aspects about yourself that make you unique, that make you who you are, whether that be the class, upbringing, city, race, religion, gender identity, sexual orientation, anything like that. If there is a system of thought that is designed to homogenize, it is an instrument of capitalist homogeneity. It is not good for your sense of self. It's not good for you to remain mentally healthy. You will be swarmed by the bulk droves, just like Donald Pleasance, and you'll scream. And man, Donald Pleasance, how he ends up. Won't go into that here, but you'll have to watch THX to find out. It's not pretty. There are people in my generation who believe that in the far future, gender won't exist. And I don't think this is the case. I don't think in the future everyone will be non-binary. I think that in the future, gender expression will be vastly different from how it is now. It might be unrecognizable. 1,000 years ago, Scottish men wore kilts, and by modern standards, those wouldn't be considered masculine. But they are masculine. A Scottish guy went and got the food, he fought his battle, and then he would go home to his wife. So there were gender roles then, and there are gender roles now. And the people I see claiming to deconstruct gender roles or whatever don't do a good job of it, because the source of gender roles, and as an asexual I recognize this, the source of gender roles is sex. As long as there's a transactional, commodified power dynamic between you and your romantic relationship, oh, I want sex out of you, so I'm going to dress a certain way. I want sex out of you, so I'm going to dress a certain way. That's how gender roles happen. And as an asexual, as someone who identifies as male, who's assigned male at birth and everything, I recognize that the only way to be truly free is just to say, fuck sex, I don't want sex, and I'm not going to perform to whatever artificial gender roles or whatever are forced upon me, because I'm not trying to attract a girlfriend to have sex with. So I don't need to behave in a performatively masculine way, a performatively feminine way, whatever. I'm a guy, and there's a lot of baggage that comes with that. I don't even really like being a guy, but I don't feel like a woman. I just don't. So I'm a guy, and that's okay, and I have to live with that till I'm dead. The same way that I'm an American. I don't like being an American. It fucking sucks here. It's so awful. It's so shit to be an American right now, and it's embarrassing. It's legitimately embarrassing to be an American. But I can't just move to Ireland. I mean, I guess I really could if I scraped together all my fucking resources and I was like, wow, Ireland offers a free living wage to all its artists. That's fucking awesome. Ireland's cool. I do love Ireland. No shit to Ireland. But if I just went to Ireland and was like, I'm Irish now, that'd be kind of a cop-out, because I have to accept that part of my identity, fundamentally, is being American. I am an American. I was born here. I was brought up under an American mindset. I work to deconstruct and think about that. I'm not just a fucking idiot. Not all Americans are fucking idiots. I know that's a stereotype. Again, it's very embarrassing to be an American. But I can't just fluidly transform my American identity and say I'm not an American. That feels like a cop-out. The same way that as a man, I have to admit that anytime I go into a female-oriented space, I might make some people uncomfortable. I hate that. I fucking hate that. I hate that I'm a guy. I do. But I don't feel non-binary, and I don't feel like a girl. I feel like a guy, that just doesn't like sex. That needs to be okay. It needs to be okay for that to be the case. But capitalist homogeneity doesn't want you to be able to have a diverse range of identities, orientations, racial identities, class identities, whatever. It wants every city to be interchangeable. It wants London to be the same as Denver, to be the same as, Ho Chi Minh City if it had its way. But, fortunately, they're communist over there, so it really can't. Capitalist homogeneity can't penetrate countries like Cuba. Havana will always feel like Havana. Fuck yeah, Cuba. As much as I like somewhere like Ireland, man, Cuba's fucking awesome. Cuba's just fucking Cuba. When I was in ostensibly leftist spaces, there was so much domestic violence that went on, and just like outright racism, homophobia, it was sad. I mean, I look back on pictures of that now, and I'm like, everyone here is white and college educated. I mean, I wasn't around the real action. I was just like, basically cosplaying. And it's fucking sad. Everyone demanded that I conform to their idea of how I should be. I should play metal music, right? Or folk punk. But that's like impotent Caucasian music, and I don't like it. I don't like metal. I think metal is music for insecure men who have to scream a bunch and plow on their guitar. And I think anyone who sells out and just plays metal, not because they really like it, but just because it's popular or whatever, play some fucking, something interesting. Go in an interesting direction. It's like you're expected to just do this certain thing and be this certain way, and you can never surprise anyone, and you're just like pigeonholed, you're just put into this cookie cutter fucking box, and honestly, I'm just fucking sick of that. If I have the choice, which I fucking do, I'm just gonna THX 1138 my way the fuck out of that, because I'm not interested in just playing fucking metal music for a crowd of white, college-educated people who think they're my peers, but they don't fucking read books. I'm not interested. People shit on communism, but George Lucas was capable of admitting that under capitalism, and he's maybe the biggest beneficiary of the big studio system, he was able to make Star Wars, he didn't really get to tell the stories he wanted because the studio always had some kind of say. And he's right about that. He said that in the Soviet Union, filmmakers were afforded more freedom. When I look at a communist movie like Solaris, do I dislike it any more than Star Wars? No, I'd have to say Solaris and Star Wars are about equal. One is full of big, bombastic, money-driven spectacle, and the other is quiet and reserved and feels very communist. But they're both fine. They're both adequate expressions of art. One is capitalist, one's communist. Star Wars and Solaris. They're both fine. They're both perfectly good movies. I can't shit on the communist one just because I'm a fucking American. That's fucking ignorant. It's fine. It's a good fucking movie. Watch Solaris, too. Great movie. I think part of the problem with reactionary media, like metal music, that's designed to offer someone a kind of catharsis. Men feel very alienated and tired and deprived and whatever. They're not the same status as they once were, or the like. Their identity isn't being validated, and they don't have all the benefits that they were promised growing up. When they were young, they were told, oh, you're going to own the world. You're going to be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company at 40. And they're just not. Younger millennials and elder Gen Z, the Rick and Morty generation, are particularly insecure. And one thing they especially can't stand is having their identity or supremacy as men or white or whatever challenged. So the result is crappy music, crappy art, like metal or folk punk, that's designed to create a kind of idealized, homogenized Caucasian legitimacy. And I'm not really into this. I don't think that you will achieve freedom of thought by just saying edgy, offensive, stupid things. I've never thought that's really the way to success, or the way to being respected by your peers, or the way to intellectual enlightenment. I tend to think that everything I say is said in relatively good faith, and I say everything with a certain degree of confidence in what I'm saying, and I especially think that I'm capable of articulating a given thought in a relatively unique way. And a lot of people tell me often that I make them think about things that they wouldn't otherwise necessarily think about. But I don't think that to be a free speech warrior, you necessarily have to just spout off a bunch of slurs or anything. That kind of makes you look like a reactionary sellout. If your idea of free speech is just, I'm going to offend the sensibilities of as many people as possible, then you've just kind of swung the other way. You've gone from the pendulum of, oh, I'm going to this extreme over here to this other extreme. But neither is really free speech. I don't think I've necessarily said anything in this video that would offend maybe 80% of you. At the same time, I don't necessarily think I'm self-censoring or anything like that. So, as a general rule of thumb, if you're expressing yourself legitimately, if you're rising above the morass, so to speak, odds are you won't offend the sensibilities of too many people. You'll just sound like a reasonable adult. It took a while for me to recognize this, but you have to present your ideas in a coherent and reasonable way, or you just come across like a screaming pickle Rick, You just come across like all your language is wubba-lubba-dub-dub. I do regret what Rick and Morty did for my generation and the generation that preceded it. And I hold nothing but the utmost contempt for someone like Justin Roiland, the greasy little pickle man that he is. I think someone like Justin Roiland is a good example for men of who not to be like. Justin Roiland is a great figure if you want to know how not to be a man, how to be an insecure, privileged douche that just lives off his own success, is constantly convinced that he's smarter than everyone around him, he's better than everyone around him. You've got to overcome that sense of superiority, or dare I say, supremacy, if you want to legitimately rise above the morass. You've got to be a little bit humble and, recognize that your biases and prejudices aren't necessarily worth articulating, that you don't necessarily have to go somewhere and say or do the most outrageous things for people to like you. You don't necessarily have to go extreme hardcore 100% on any given thing to be perceived as a reasonable individual. All too often my generation is given to simplistic moral dichotomies with no room for nuance or context or interpretation. I've heard from certain members of my generation that the only two political parties are the type of person that posts on Reddit and the type of person that posts on 4chan. This is as much a dichotomy as any other political binary. There's no room for subtlety or anything like that. You're either a 4chaner or you're a Redditor. I used to have a friend, now I think of it, this friend also shoplifted. It's like all my ex-friends were like fucking shoplifter supreme or something. But she used to say that she liked me because I felt real to her. No one else did really. I felt real. I think the bond we shared was so deep and so piercing, just so intense, that I was the only one who felt real to her. I was the only one who felt like I was pulling her out of the Matrix. I was her Morpheus. And I think this is a problem when you label people who, hey, they might be the THX 1138 bald drones. They might not have a damn idea what the fuck they're talking about, but they're not fake. Like, they might act fake. You can say someone acts fake, but it's once you start saying that people aren't real, that you're kind of dehumanizing them and you're not giving them enough credit that, they could grow, they could read a fucking book, and they could become smarter, they could try. Maybe they don't succeed per se, but, they could give a shit enough to better themselves a little bit intellectually. They don't have to. But if you dismiss all people as fake or whatever, or, oh, I'm the only real one. I'm the only real one because I listen to Joe Rogan and he's going to save free speech. His podcast is the funniest and most insightful and most philosophically intriguing work of the 21st century, and nobody can convince me otherwise because Joe Rogan is my god. You're not, like, any more real than anyone else. You're not especially unique. You're not the hot shit. You're not next year's model. You're last year's model. Joe Rogan hasn't even been relevant beyond his shitty podcast for like the past 20 years. He hasn't even been doing Fear Factor. You expect me to take you seriously if Joe Rogan is your favorite guy? This bald greaser that sits in his room and he looks like a boiled egg and he just stares across the table at Jordan Peterson or whoever, and Jordan Peterson's like, and Joe Rogan's like, yeah, bro, that's pretty fucking deep, bro. Yeah, this is like what you think is like going to save us. Alright. Anyway, my point is, you've got to have a little bit of pity and humanity towards people who you think are kind of stupid. You've got to kind of say, you know, that they could read. If they really wanted to, they could try. Like, they could realize that shoplifting doesn't make them cool or anything. But, you know, they just don't, because, you know, whatever. But you can't just dismiss all of them as fake. I mean, if you think about it, with the Matrix, right? The other people in the pods, they're people too. You know, they're in the Matrix, but they're not robots or holograms. They're people too. They're being harvested for energy, just like Neo. It just happens Neo's the one that wakes up, you know. They're all in there too, and you know, they don't have a very good time of it in the Matrix, so, but, like, to dismiss all of them is just kind of cold and callous and makes you not so cool, you know. Just a thought, I think too many guys fall into that trap, you know, if their girlfriend says, hey honey, you're kind of exhibiting chauvinist tendencies, and then they're like, what the fuck did you just say to me, you hussy? What the shit? Oh, damn it, I am exhibiting chauvinist tendencies? Fuck! You're not real! Only Joe Rogan is real! That just kind of makes you look like a tool if you're a guy and you have to do that. I think that's it's kind of sad. As guys, and you know, I'm saying this as a guy because I do identify as a guy. I'm a fucking guy. We have to be aware of like, we come off as cringe so often, and how we don't recognize this is really beyond me. I don't even really understand why girls are attracted to guys, because it's like, what the fuck is even appealing about masculinity at this point? A couple nights ago, I was at open mic, and there was this one guy that came in, and he did this terrible song. And he did it specifically, I think, to get a reaction out of the audience, which he did get. But the reaction was not positive. I think he actually thought many people would find this shit hilarious. They'd find this to be really witty and incisive. But his song was like, is it incest if I do it with my sister? And the whole song was like this. It was just like 30 different hypothetical scenarios during which he describes in graphic detail having intercourse with someone he's related to. Now, the joke is really on him because this song makes him look like he has sex with his cousin or whatever, which, you know, like, that's not something that most guys, even I have to give guys credit here, most guys would not want to be associated with a song like this. Most guys would not have what it takes to go up on stage and perform this shit. But he went for it. He was ready and raring to go, and he thought, wow, I'm going to kill it at open mic, and everyone is going to be my fan, and they'll be like, wow, you're asking the questions that no one else is willing to with your edgy incest song. What actually happened is all the girls in the room, they all went out the door. They were like, we're done with this, because 9 times out of 10, actually not 9 times out of 10, you know, 99 out of 100 times, in an incest scenario, there is a really abusive power dynamic. So it's just like abuse. So what we're talking about here is like an abuse song that no one finds funny, because abuse isn't funny, and rape isn't funny, and assault, not funny. Seasoned comedians even, you know, like the pros, they don't do material about this shit because it's just not funny. It's very difficult to find a laughing matter in this sort of thing. It's a fucking tragedy. All the girls left out the back of the room. They were done with this shit. And then I went out because I was like, this is just too gross a fucking song, and this guy is just putrid. None of the people here are enjoying the music, and I'd feel awkward and unpleasant if I stuck around for it. If I kept being in this room. Maybe back in the day, back when I was hanging around all these folk punk types, but at that point I was like, I'm claustrophobic and I want the fuck out of here because this is just an awkward, embarrassing song and I have no idea why this guy wants to get up on stage and fucking humiliate himself like this with his song where it's like, is it incest? And that was like the chorus. But it's like, none of the situations he presented were like borderline or gray area. It was all just like very blatantly like, yeah, that is incest. Do you really need people to tell you that? Why pose the question? Why put this forward as like an idea? I went out, and all the girls went out, and barely any guys went out. They all just kind of sat there. They just kind of nod their heads. Oh yeah, is it? Right? And they were just kind of like lost in the sauce. They're just kind of in a stupor there. This guy, he gets off stage, he ends his song, and the song was like super long. It was like 5 fucking minutes of cringe. Just straight cringe. And then I was outside by this point. I had vacated the premises because he just, you know, stunk it up. He comes out, and some of the girls try and tell him, you know, that song, it brought up some bad memories, you know, and it's kind of wrong, you know, to do a song like that. It's kind of fucked up because like not many people want to hear about that. Even if it's just a joke, even if you think you're just like a dark humor lord, you know, just a real edge king, you know, some people actually have gone through that. Like you've never, because you're just a white guy and you've experienced a life of immense satisfactory privilege in that position. But, you know, some people have had a rough time with that sort of thing. So maybe just that shouldn't be a song, or you know, just like think about it. Think about what you sing before you bring it up. And he just left. He just walked past them. He's just like, yeah, fuck it, I'm out of here. Fuck it, don't like my song, huh? And he probably went home to his fucking isolation cave and smoked some marijuana and watched some pornography and then went to sleep. And he probably doesn't consider what he did or why it's bad or anything. Because he's just in his apartment alone and his mind is decaying. His faculties are rotting away actively. He's becoming more and more fucking stupid by the day. And this is exactly the sort of guy that crypto-fascists try and target. Men with no self-awareness, no sense of belonging. Just no sense of what they want to do with life. The sad, depressing, stinky Rick and Morty generation of fucking losers. And these are the type of men, too, who value sex above all else. And commodify sex and treat it like the currency, basically. It's really important that I don't fall into that category in the eyes of anyone. I don't want to be associated with guys that enjoy Rick and Morty, because I never enjoyed Rick and Morty. And this is even on record. I'm on record in like 2017-18 saying Rick and Morty is a pile of shit. This franchise fucking sucks. I don't get what other people see in it. Man, has that take aged well. It's aged extremely well. Back in 2018 or so, people were saying, well, Netflix is going to democratize entertainment. Suddenly you'll be able to get your tiny little web show on this big massive streaming platform with zero connections or anything. You'll just be able to upload it and everyone will be able to watch it. Man, was that naive. Netflix doesn't democratize entertainment or communication. It just monopolizes and consolidates like any other big fucking company under like capitalism. It just buys Warner Brothers, and the entire entertainment industry from here on out is probably going to go to shit. Again, I'm really glad none of my intellectual property is owned by Warner Brothers. That's a relief. like, Rick and Morty might be. Justin Roiland just has to sit forever in his dank isolation cave and puff up on some fucking marijuana with the knowledge that his own characters don't belong to him. Not his own characters, of course. They're just plagiarized versions of Marty McFly and Doc Brown from Back to the Future. But that's besides the point. Justin Roiland does not have the ability to have any say anymore over what his creations do. They're beyond him. They've escaped his grasp. And they're just mass commodified intellectual property bullshit now. Like Mickey Mouse. There's nothing remotely subversive or countercultural about them. As much as the Joe Rogan crowd would like to insist that Wubba Lubba Dub Dub is the new communist manifesto, it's just not. There's nothing remotely radical or interesting about it. Rick and Morty makes you a basic bitch if you're a Rick and Morty fan. But this guy at Open Mic was very clearly some kind of Rick and Morty fan or something, and he probably loved the shit. And he probably also enjoys sex. If I had to take a gamble, I'd say he probably does. And he enjoyed just slinging his hot cringe all over the entire crowd there. I'm actually really glad that I was one of the only guys. I think there were just like 2 other guys that went out when this guy started up. And, I'm proud of that. I don't think the guy should be canceled or anything. I don't think the guy should be barred from necessarily even any other open mic, or he should be able to go down to the comedy club and try his shit there, or try his shit somewhere until he realizes that it's not going to get very big. But I'm glad I walked out on it, because I couldn't stand much more of it, actually. I had reached my breaking point. I understand now what it's like to be exposed to crap, and you don't have to sit there for it, It might feel rude if you stand up and walk out, but standing up and walking out is actually like the most polite option to this kind of shit. Just stand up and walk out, and you don't have to hear it, and just get the fuck out of there, because I really did not want to. It was unpleasant all the way. But it's just an example of this fucking, Rick and Morty Joker type mindset that so many fucking guys have got into. And I'm really glad I'm not like that. And I'm glad I went out with the girls, and I was like, hey, I fucking hate this shit too. I'm so tired. I don't want to be around this anymore. It was important that I put my foot down there and just, made that very clear. This shit sucks, and I'm embarrassed to be a guy, because, men don't fucking farm anymore. They don't build cathedrals. They don't fucking, tend cows. What the fuck do guys even do? They just sit on their ass and they fucking program, data sheets and shit. Wow, I work for Amazon. Here I'm programming a Palestinian death drone. Man, I'm such a provider for my family, even though I just exist in my isolation apartment all fucking day, and I smoke weed, and I watch reruns of Rick and Morty. I'm such a fucking man. No. And like I say, these self-proclaimed leftists who claim to be, big hardcore leftists, but all they value is sexual and romantic relationships. They claim to be, communist or whatever, but they have no real sense of just equal attention to everyone, just like everyone, there's a human, that's my peer, that's my equal. No, I've got to focus all my effort and energy onto one person that I marry and wife down, and then, we just experience the exact same married experience as everyone before us, but we claim that we're breaking down systematic roles or whatever, or we're doing something different. When really you're not. If you get married, you're entering an institution that's just designed to prevent you from seeing people beyond your immediate romantic partner as humans, which, I do. I just see everyone as equal. There's not a particular girl or anything, or one friend that I go, wow, this is the one person. I've wanted to do that. I've wanted for there just to be one person that solves all my problems. But that's just not the case. There's just not one person that can, answer life for me. That's not going to happen. I just see everyone as, here's a person, here's a person, here's a person, case-by-case basis. You're all equals, These people who claim to be leftists but feed into the exact same romantocentric, sexocentric type mindset, they might shit on me for not having sex or not wanting sex. They might call me less of a man. They might, in fact, really shit on masculinity, but then exhibit masculine characteristics like, I'm going to shit on this other guy who doesn't have a girlfriend because I've been conditioned into masculine toxicity where I have to shit on every guy that doesn't have a girlfriend like I do. They might shit on me for being asexual, but they need to recognize ultimately, because I recognize this. Guys like this one who did the 5-minute incest song are less men than I'll ever be. They don't have any point. They don't have anywhere to go. They don't have anything to fucking do. They're boring, miserable people. And I don't want to end up like that. There must be some kind of happy compromise that we asexuals can reach, because I don't want to be like that, and I don't want to be associated with that, and it's embarrassing just to be a fucking man, but I have to be because I am one. And I just have to say, not all guys are like this, and we need to get a fucking grip, or we're just gonna go down the shitter. We need to be capable of acknowledging that on an individual level, we can't fix all the problems in the world, yes, but we can make a difference, like a substantive fucking difference. We can make the world a better place on an individual level. It starts on an individual level, and it gets bigger, but it has to start with you. And you don't have to be cringe or be the big Joe Rogan fan, because it's not doing anyone any fucking favors. With other men, the problem is that they're being radicalized to the right. Charlie Kirk is going out there and he's saying, come on boys, you can fix yourselves up, you can become good clean men if you give yourselves a haircut, and you become my little bold drones, my little bold THX 1138 drones. It's very good, by the way, that the world's biggest conservative youth thought leader got put to sleep, because you can only begin to imagine the kind of harm he'd do to Gen Z and every generation going forward. It's a good thing that him being only 31, he's not going to spread his garbage any further. The point stands. More and more of today's men are being radicalized towards the right. We lose more and more of them every day. They're being alienated and subsumed into this disgusting fucking morass. Well, with me, it's the fucking opposite. I'm being radicalized day by day, further and further into the left. I'm just reading all this fucking political theory. I want to drown myself in thought. I just want to infuse my brain with ideas. It's like fucking obscene. Every day I live in this reckless shithole, this unlegislatable fucking country of swamp shit. I'm just embarrassed to be here. And so I'm being radicalized further and further left. I'm way past the fucking center at this point. Kind of shit pisses me the fuck off, you know? So, like, to be radicalized towards the right, I don't even know how guys get to that point. What the fuck? Let's see some guys becoming fucking, Fidel Castro up in here. Where's all the Fidel Castro guys? Why is every guy just like a fucking Joe Rogan fan? Or fucking Charlie Kirk fan? What the fuck? Why aren't we seeing any fucking Fidel Castros up in here? If you're a white man and you're not leftist in fucking 2026, what the fuck are you even doing? Do you care about anything? You just got your fucking Pickle Rick anime pillow, huh? You make love to Pickle Rick after you smoke up a hot blunt, huh? Yeah. Look up, Rick and Morty fans. Hi, it's me, your intellectual superior. I'm your worst fucking nightmare. There is no God. What was I talking about? Right now, as I speak, the reason I'm filming back here and not in my usual spot is because there's a pipe leaking upstairs. There's plaster and water dripping down onto the floor. Some of my comics were ruined from it. And I have to put a bucket under that fucking hole in the ceiling until it gets fixed. These are conditions experienced maybe by tenants of the Soviet apartment blocks, those big massive things in the old photos, or heck, they probably had it better off. These things were probably addressed in Soviet apartment blocks. As a person living in capitalist America, I probably live under conditions that are inferior to those experienced by a Soviet citizen. I have to put a fucking bucket under my ceiling. I mean, think about that for a minute, and how sad that is. In America, I mean, you know, we like to brag, but like, we have shit conditions as much as anywhere. And pretty soon, from everything I've heard, China is going to overtake us as the world's dominant superpower, along with a lot of European nations, and we'll become a part of the second world. Our 100-year-plus long streak of world domination will be over. And honestly, that'll be okay. I'll be okay if I have to live like a Balkan for the rest of my life, because it's preferable to being a fucking McDonald-eating, you know, fat, ignorant, gross, Jabba-the-Hutt-looking fucking cheeseball asshat like Donald Trump. It will be immensely preferable to be a skinny, toned-down Czechoslovakian that has to charge my fucking electric bike and go to the bean factory. That'll honestly be preferable. Capitalist homogeneity is a very sad trend, and it can lead one to despair, the conformity that people are led to, the erasure of the self, the erasure of a unique lived experience. That's something very special. You have to live your own life that is unique from other people's and say, I did this thing. This is interesting and unique, and I only did it my way, and it happened. You can say, I hiked to the top of the Manitou Incline with my Casio MT68 keyboard. That makes me the only one to do that. I'm me, nobody else is me. That's important to say. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind that nobody, even yourself, nobody is more special than anyone else. All people are equal. We're all just a bunch of fucking great apes that crawled out of the Great Rift Valley millions of years ago. And we are all subject and prone to bias and flawed thought and any of that. And we have to keep that in check. If you keep in mind that you're no better than anyone else, counterintuitively, you can rise over the conformist fascist morass. You can rise over the group collective thought. You can become your own person. But you have to be capable of recognizing, first and foremost, that certain things you're told or certain ways you think aren't necessarily correct. Back in the 1970s, it was said that due to race mixing, by 2025, everyone would just be tan. There would only be one race. My mom specifically remembers this being a popular line of thought, that by 2025, people would all look exactly the same. There would be no Indian, no black, no Asian, no white, anything like that. Flash forward to 2025, and there are still obviously races. They are a human construct. We're all the same fucking species at the end of the day. But people have kept their racial signifiers, gender signifiers, religious signifiers, class signifiers, whatever, because these are unique ways of thinking that make people diverse. And that's actual diversity, is the ability to be different from someone, but not to want to kill them, to just accept, oh, they're different, and go along with that. Not to accept shit like fascism, because fascism is anti-diversity. To accept diversity, you have to accept that other people are different than you, but not accept people who are different from you in a way that just wants to erase those differences or get rid of those differences. That's fucking shit. Fascism is the one kind of ideology that it's okay to just say, you people don't deserve to live. You people are a drain on the system, and we don't want you. On the other hand, we can go too far with persecuting people who are different from us. Like, for instance, there are local bands, a couple, not everyone, but a couple who say, if you tell us that someone is an abuser, then we will just ban them from our shows forever. And I think that's fucking shit. I think that's a really exploitable system. Someone could just have a grudge against someone and they say, oh yeah, she's a rapist, he's a murderer, right? And the band would just believe it, and they'd just be like, okay, you're banned from our shows forever. No explanation, no excuse, no mercy, no context. I don't believe in that. I believe that people should be afforded the opportunity to prove who they are through their actions, and I will never do anything like that at my fucking shows. I won't just tell someone to leave because they're a different religion or race or sexual demographic than me or any fucking thing like that. That's reprehensible. And if someone just says, oh, they're a rapist, I'm not just going to go, oh yeah, oh, they're so-and-so demographic, and that demographic is full of rapists, so it must be, oh, damn, I better kick them out of my show, because art is for everyone. Art should be, ideally, universally accessible to anyone. People should be able to exchange freedom of thought. People should be able to engage with ideas that are different from their own and challenge them in a certain way, like that sex is a pointless waste of time. But you don't have to agree with that. You should just be able to engage with it on a surface level at the very least. I will never implement a policy like that at any of my shows that you just say, oh, so-and-so's a rapist. Give me evidence. Give me proof. If there's proof, if there's evidence, then, based on the context, case-by-case basis, I might say, I don't want to be friends with this fucking person because fuck rapists. Rape is evil. But at the same time, I was not, maybe, I don't know if to call it rape would be the correct term. I'm going to break it down here. I'm going to stop talking fast. I was grabbed. I was touched in a way that I wasn't okay with. I was touched, and the person that did it, I'd known her for about months, and I said, I'm asexual. I don't want to be touched beyond just a hug or something, And she had ideas about me that were wrong, and wanted something out of me that I can't give, I just can't give because of who I am. And I have to go to shows sometimes where I see her, and it hurts, and it's very intense for me to think about what she did. I just have to kind of deal with it, I'm not going to deprive her of the ability to be at a show, to enjoy music. I'm not going to, but at the same time, I do have to keep in mind what happened, and there'll never really be any erasing that because it hurt me a lot. It hurts to be used and then tossed aside like trash when you're not convenient anymore, when you can't give something, that's not fun. And as a guy, I know this isn't a common thing, people don't usually talk about this, but it happens. It happens to guys too. And I don't know if I would call it the R word necessarily, but it's like the crossing of a boundary. But I just accept that she's there. I don't tell anyone, she has to go, kick her out, she's my rapist, I don't. Because I just accept that people are flawed in all kinds of ways, and that's okay. It's okay to be flawed. It's okay to be, maybe not what she did isn't okay. I don't know. I still don't know. These are the hard questions you have to ask yourself. But I wouldn't want someone I still have a degree of respect for just on a certain level. I wouldn't want to have to kick her out of a show. I think that's wrong. I think music should be for everyone. And I don't believe in canceling people or ruining their reputation. I think that's shit behavior. I think that trying to tear someone down and, you never get to work in this industry again, you don't fit our preconceived expectations of how art should be, you express yourself authentically, we're going to remove you from so-and-so fucking snooty-ass clique. That shit can go fuck itself, honestly. And it's just leftist infighting. And canceling is just the tool of the enemy. And it's bad. So I don't believe in that kind of thing. I dislike individual people on a case-by-case contextual basis. But there's Yeah, I have to believe. I have to maintain hope towards people. And if I said, "Oh, this person can't be here because of what she did," I'd really be no better than anyone. It's okay to dislike certain, or it's okay to dislike certain forms of expression. It's absolutely okay to fucking hate fascists, but you can't just. You have to assume that people are capable of good. You have to assume that people can grow. That's all, really, when you get right down to it. You have to assume that people are capable of doing better. And that's what I believe as a secular humanist, is all. So, yeah. Anyway, the time on this video is almost up. Thank you for watching this episode of Smash the Fash. I'm sure there are more things I was going to say that I can't, but this is a long episode as it is. Thank you for watching. Thank you for enjoying all these wacky videos. It's Mr. Potato Head's hand here. Isn't that fun? Happy 2026. This video is not sponsored by NordVPN or HelloFresh or anything. It's sponsored by Nicolas Comics, Denver's best comics. If you want to buy TV Girl, Blotto, Dr. Moss, fucking Get Dippy, then write to Nicolas Sequeira, 1424 Columbine St, number 1, Denver, Colorado, 80206. It's the decrepit property with the leak in the ceiling here in beautiful old Denver, Colorado. Good old city. I love it. I'm never leaving Denver. And yeah, that's it for this week, this episode, this month. Hope you enjoyed watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Sporish.